My name is Nancy Jellison. I'm 29 years old, and I've learned the hard way that in my family, silence is treated like permission. For 8 months straight, I've been quietly paying my sister's rent, $2,300 every month, just so our mother could sleep at night. Not because I wanted to, but because every time I hesitated, Mom would text me lines like, "You know how hard things are for Emily. The kids need stability." Then came the guilt trip. "You've always been the lucky one, Nancy. Be grateful you can help." I used to believe her until tonight. It was my mother's 62nd birthday, a Sunday dinner that always turned into a performance. The same people every year. Uncle Greg, who talks about Colorado real estate like it's a religion. Grandpa Will, who barely speaks but catches everything. My cousin Derek, half present and scrolling on his phone. And my sister Emily, sitting across the table like she was queen of the evening. I brought a bottle of red wine and the kind of polite smile that hides resentment. The dining room smelled of roast chicken and scented candles. My mother loved putting on appearances. Everything coordinated: the golden table runner, the antique china, the matching napkin rings she bought with her savings. I didn't have the heart to point out that her savings had always been mysteriously abundant for a retired school teacher. I was halfway through a bite when the conversation turned toward Emily's new business. Another one. This time, it was a home-based wellness startup, whatever that meant. She explained how she'd combine meal delivery with digital mindfulness tracking. Everyone nodded like it was revolutionary. Then, in that light, joking tone she used when she wanted to cut deep, she said, "Some people just have to feel needed, even when they're clearly not." Her eyes didn't meet mine, but they didn't have to. The timing, the smirk, the setup, it was deliberate. I put my fork down. The room went silent, except for the ticking wall clock. Uncle Greg stopped mid-chew. Mom's lips parted, ready to smooth things over, but I spoke first. I raised my glass. "Good news then," I said, voice steady. "I'm not." Then I pulled out my phone, opened my banking app, and scrolled to the recurring transfer labeled Jellison Family Rent, and froze it. The click of the button was louder than any argument. Emily blinked. What are you doing?" Mom laughed nervously, that fake, high-pitched laugh that means she's scared of losing control. "You're not actually doing that," she said, half whispering, half daring. I looked straight at my sister. "You've got until the end of the month. After that, you're on your own." Emily's husband shifted uncomfortably beside her. Her hands trembled under the table. "You can't be serious," she muttered. "I'm very serious," I said. "And your startup? I'm out. No more funding bad ideas disguised as passion projects." The silence after that was suffocating. Even Derek looked up from his phone. Mom's voice cracked. "You're saying this on my birthday? Would you rather I lied on your birthday?" I asked. "Pretended everything's fine while I'm footing my sister's bills and being called selfish for finally stopping?" She glared at me, eyes wet but unyielding. "You're humiliating your family." "No," I said softly. "You've been humiliating me for years. I'm just done pretending it's love." For a long second, no one breathed. Then, out of nowhere, Grandpa Will spoke. Slow, deliberate, the kind of voice that made everyone listen. "It was overdue." My mother froze. Emily's mouth fell open. Uncle Greg exhaled through his nose like he'd been holding that sentence in for years. I stood up, wiped my hands with the napkin, and pushed my chair back. "Happy birthday, Mom," I said. Emily called after me, her voice rising with panic. "Nancy, wait! You can't just—" "Watch me." And I walked out, past the glittering dining room, past the photos on the wall of family vacations I'd paid for but never smiled in. The hallway lights flickered as I opened the door. Outside, the night was warm, the air heavy with the scent of jasmine from Mom's garden. I could still hear her voice through the window, muffled but sharp. How could she do this to us? I didn't stop walking. For the first time in years, I felt something close to freedom. Terrifying, exhilarating, absolute. But as I reached my car, I saw my reflection in the window. Steady, unsmiling, and I realized something chilling. This wasn't about money. It never had been. It was about control. And tonight, I had finally broken it. By the next morning, my phone looked like a battlefield. 6 missed calls from Mom, 3 from Emily, 1 from her husband, and a wall of unread messages that all said the same thing in different tones. How could you do this to us? I made coffee, sat on the edge of my bed, and read them all. Every message followed the same pattern. Guilt first, then panic, then blame. Mom's text came first. "Nancy, this isn't like you. You're hurting your sister's children. Think about the kids." Then Emily's husband chimed in. We've always appreciated your help. Don't make this ugly. You're family. That word again, family. The sharpest weapon in their arsenal. I didn't reply. I just let the silence breathe. For once, it was their turn to squirm in it. By noon, Mom switched from guilt to outrage. She called, voice tight and trembling. Nancy, what are you doing to this family? You're turning your back on your own blood. No, I said calmly. I'm just ending something that never should have started. I never agreed to support 3 adults indefinitely. Her tone hardened. They're not just adults, they have children. And I'm not their mother, I said. That stunned her into silence for exactly 2 seconds before she launched into a tirade about how I'd grown cold, how I thought money could solve everything, how I didn't understand real responsibility. I bit back the words I wanted to say. Real responsibility? From the woman who coddled a 37-year-old daughter who hadn't paid her own bills in years? From the mother who never once asked where the money was going, only who would cover it next? I let her rant until she ran out of breath. Then I said, You can keep calling me selfish, Mom, or you can start asking why your grown daughter lives in a nicer apartment than I do and still expects me to pay for it. There was a sharp inhale, then a click. She hung up. I stared at the screen for a long time, watching the call-ended message fade. That night, the house was quiet. My apartment felt too clean, too peaceful, like the calm after a storm that had been brewing for years. I turned off my phone and tried to sleep, but my mind replayed everything. Emily's smirk, Mom's stare, the weight of that frozen account button. They were probably sitting in Mom's living room right now, rewriting the story, painting me as the ungrateful villain who ruined the birthday dinner. That's how it always went. In this family, truth was negotiable, especially if it made someone look bad. But what they didn't realize was that I wasn't bluffing. I was done. 3 days passed before anyone else reached out. Then my phone rang again. Uncle Greg. He never called unless something was serious. I just wanted you to know, he said quietly. You did the right thing. Really? I asked. Because it doesn't feel like it. Someone had to draw the line, he said. It's been years of this, Nancy. Everyone's just been too polite to say it out loud. I didn't reply. My throat felt tight. He went on. After you left the birthday dinner, your grandfather said something that shut the whole table up. What did he say? He said it was overdue. Then he stood up and left. For a second, I couldn't breathe. Grandpa Will, the man who never took sides, who spoke maybe 5 sentences a week, had backed me. That meant more than anything. When we hung up, I sat at my kitchen table staring at the faint ring marks from my coffee mug. My phone buzzed again. A new message from Mom. This time, just one line. You've made your point. Now stop. I stared at the text until the words blurred. Now stop. She didn't mean stop the fighting. She meant start paying again. Pretend nothing happened. Pretend the system still worked. Me as the silent donor, Emily as the victim, Mom as the mediator. I locked my phone. No reply, no explanation, just silence. By the weekend, the silence became its own message. No one texted, no one called. I expected relief, but what I felt instead was a strange ache. Not regret exactly, just emptiness, where obligation used to be. Sunday afternoon, I drove past Mom's house. The curtains were drawn, the porch light still broken. For a moment, I wondered if she was waiting for me to show up and apologize like I always did. But I didn't stop. I kept driving. That night, as I washed my dishes, I caught my reflection in the kitchen window. I looked tired. Not from the argument, but from the years leading up to it. For so long, I'd been their safety net, their backup plan, and the truth hit me with quiet clarity. They weren't angry because I stopped paying. They were angry because I stopped playing my role. By the first of the month, the rent payment that used to automatically leave my account was gone. I didn't need a notification to know what would follow. At 8:17 a.m., my phone buzzed. A text from Emily. Hey, can we talk? I didn't answer. 20 minutes later, another message. You're not really doing this, right? You just needed to make a point? Still, I said nothing. At noon, my mother called again. This time, she didn't sound angry, just cold. Nancy, you've made your point. You embarrassed me in front of my family, humiliated your sister, and ruined my birthday. Now undo it. There's nothing to undo, I said. I'm not responsible for their rent. Her tone hardened. You always think you're better than us. You think your career makes you untouchable, but this arrogance will come back to you. I hung up before she could finish. For the next few days, I tried to focus on work, but the constant buzz of my phone kept pulling me back. Long, pleading messages, angry voicemails, a mix of emotional blackmail and denial. By Thursday, Emily's husband finally texted me directly, his first contact since the dinner. We're short this month, Nancy. Just this once, please. We'll figure it out next time. Then, 5 minutes later, you're hurting the kids, you know. They don't deserve this. I closed my messages. I wasn't going to be guilt-tripped by a man who hadn't held a job in years and spent most of his afternoons brainstorming startup ideas at coffee shops. I didn't respond, not to any of them. But ignoring them didn't mean peace. The silence they left behind felt like pressure in my chest, heavy and growing. I didn't know what I expected, maybe an apology or at least accountability. Instead, what came next was desperation disguised as coincidence. That Saturday, I walked into my favorite cafe, the one I went to every weekend, and there she was. Emily's husband's wife, Lisa, sitting at the corner table, hands folded, pretending not to wait for me. When she saw me, she stood quickly, her expression twisting between guilt and accusation. "Oh, Nancy, what a surprise!" "Sure," I said flatly. 40-minute drive for a coincidence. She bit her lip, then dropped the act. "We need help. The kids—" Stop, I interrupted. "You don't get to insult me in your messages all week and then beg for help over coffee." "You can afford it," she snapped. "You make more than all of us combined." "You're right," I said calmly. "I can afford a lot of things. Just not this." Her voice rose. "You're punishing us." "No, I'm just giving you what you said you wanted. Independence." She stared at me for a long second, eyes filling with tears she wanted me to see. Then she grabbed her purse and hissed, "Karma always comes back, Nancy," before storming out. I sat down and ordered my drink anyway. The barista gave me a sympathetic look. She'd probably heard everything. I didn't care. For the first time, I tasted my coffee without guilt. But the peace didn't last. 3 days later, I got a voicemail from Emily. The first half was furious. "You've changed, Nancy. You're cold, heartless." Then her voice broke mid-sentence, softer now. "The kids don't understand what's happening. We're out of options. Please, just this month. We'll find a way next time." I played the voicemail twice, listening for sincerity. There was some, but it came too late. That night, my uncle David called. He never called. "Just so you know," he said, "they're being evicted. The landlord gave them 3 days. Don't feel bad, kiddo. You're the only one who ever told the truth." I sat there, phone pressed to my ear, numb. Eviction. I pictured Emily's kids packing their toys into boxes, Lisa crying into her phone, and my mother pacing, crafting a new narrative where I was the villain again. But I didn't call. I didn't go over. Sometimes love means doing nothing. By the next morning, I knew they'd left. The group chat was quiet. No complaints. No passive-aggressive quotes. Just silence. Until Uncle Greg texted me a photo. A grainy shot of my sister's husband dragging a mattress up a narrow stairwell, kids sitting on boxes below a for-lease sign. Greg's message read, "It's not pretty, but maybe it's real this time." I didn't know what to feel. Relief, guilt, or something in between. That night, I sat on my balcony with a glass of wine, staring at the city lights. The air felt heavy, but clear. For the first time in years, I wasn't waiting for the next crisis, the next emergency call, the next emotional ransom note. But deep down, I knew the story wasn't over. Because families like ours never collapse quietly. They implode, and then they dig for something to use against you. And I had a sinking feeling they were about to find it. 2 weeks passed in eerie quiet. No calls, no texts, no guilt trips. It should have felt peaceful, but it didn't. The silence was too heavy, like the eye of a storm before it starts spinning again. Then, late one Friday night, my phone lit up with a name I hadn't seen since the eviction. Emily. For a moment, I almost didn't answer. But curiosity won. Her voice was shaky, rushed. "Nancy, I found something. You need to hear this." "Slow down. What is it?" It's Mom." My stomach dropped. "What about her?" "There was an envelope," she said, "from a law firm in Nevada, addressed to her. I found it in one of the moving boxes." I frowned. "Why would you have Mom's mail?" "Because she sent half our stuff to storage, and I think she mixed it in by mistake." She took a breath. "It's about Dad's land. The one he bought before he died. It sold last year for over $60,000. Mom signed everything." The room spun. "She sold it?" "Yes," Emily said, her voice cracking. "She sold it and never told us. While you were paying our rent, she had the money. She let you do it." For a long moment, neither of us spoke. I stared at the floor, every puzzle piece from the last year clicking into place. The new kitchen backsplash, the expensive watch she wore to her birthday, the way she deflected when I asked about her savings. She'd had money the whole time. "She watched me cover your bills," I said slowly, and she said nothing. "I didn't know, Nancy," Emily whispered. "I swear, I thought she was struggling too." I believed her. maybe for the first time in years. There was something raw in her voice, something unpolished. "What are you going to do?" Emily asked. "What do you think?" I said quietly. "I'm done pretending she's just misguided. She's manipulative." There was a long pause, then Emily said something I didn't expect. "You were right. I should have stood up to her a long time ago." Those words hit harder than any apology. We stayed on the phone for nearly an hour, talking not as rivals, but as sisters who finally understood how much damage one person's control could do. Emily confessed things I'd never heard. How Mom used to pit us against each other, whispering, "Nancy thinks she's better than you," and how it worked every time. "She kept me angry at you," Emily said, "because as long as I was mad at you, I didn't see what she was doing." It made sense. The guilt, the competition, the invisible hierarchy. We were both just pawns in her version of family loyalty. When I hung up, I sat in the dark, the sound of the city faint through my window. Somewhere in the distance, a siren wailed, fading, then gone. The next morning, Grandpa Will called. He never called unless something serious had broken loose. "Your sister told me," he said, voice low but steady, "about the land, about your mother." "I should have seen it sooner," I said. "You couldn't," he replied. "You were too busy trying to fix what she kept breaking." His words settled like a weight in my chest. "What should I do now?" I asked. He sighed softly. "Nothing. The truth's out. That's enough. Don't let her drag you into her shame." But I couldn't let it sit there. I needed her to know I knew. That afternoon, I drove to Mom's house. The same perfect garden. The same white shutters. The same illusion of grace and stability she always maintained. When she opened the door, she looked startled, as if she expected a ghost, not a daughter. "Nancy," she said, forcing a smile, "you look thin. Are you eating properly?" I ignored it. "You sold Dad's land." Her face didn't change, not right away. Then her eyes narrowed. "So, Emily told you. You didn't think to mention it yourself?" "It wasn't your concern." I laughed bitterly. "Wasn't my concern? I paid thousands for your other daughter's rent while you sat on $60,000 of Dad's money." Her lips pressed into a thin line. "You don't understand how complicated things were." "No," I said sharply. "I understand perfectly. You lied. You manipulated us. And when I stopped paying, you let me be the villain." She said nothing. For the first time, I saw her small. Not powerful, not righteous, just cornered. "I did what I had to do," she whispered. "No, Mom," I said, stepping back. "You did what made you feel in control." Her eyes glistened, but I didn't stay to watch her cry. As I turned to leave, she said one more thing, soft but cutting. "You've always thought you were better than this family, Nancy. Maybe you are." I paused at the door. "Maybe I just finally stopped believing your version of love." And I left. That night, Emily texted me again. "I told Grandpa everything. He said he's proud of you." For the first time in months, I slept without checking my phone. Because for once, I didn't owe anyone an explanation. 6 months later, the quiet had become familiar. It wasn't emptiness anymore. It was peace. I'd changed my number, blocked Mom's calls, and stopped checking the old family group chat that had long turned into a guilt forum. At first, the silence felt strange. But like any detox, the longer it lasted, the cleaner I felt. One morning, as I was finishing my second cup of coffee before work, my phone buzzed with an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. "Nancy, it's Emily." Her voice was steadier this time, tired but not broken. "I got the job," she said. "The one you mentioned at the warehouse. It's long hours, but it's real. We're okay now." I smiled quietly. "I'm proud of you." She laughed softly. "You know, if you'd told me a year ago that I'd be happy earning an hourly wage, I'd have called you crazy." "Sometimes normal is underrated," I said. Emily hesitated before adding, "I know I said this before, but I really mean it now. You were right. If you hadn't stopped helping us, I don't think we ever would have grown up." It was the first time she'd said we. Not just her, but both of them. Before hanging up, she said one more thing. "Mom showed up a few weeks ago, tried to pretend nothing happened. I told her we were fine and she didn't need to come by again." That surprised me. My sister, the same woman who once called me heartless for drawing a boundary, was now holding one of her own. After the call, I sat by the window watching the city morning unfold. Delivery trucks, dog walkers, the hum of ordinary life. I hadn't realized how much of my energy used to go into crisis management. Now, my time was finally my own. But the peace didn't last forever. 2 weeks later, Mom came to my apartment. She didn't call ahead. She just appeared. Perfect hair, lipstick, pearls, the same mask she always wore when she wanted to rewrite the story. I met her at the door. "Nancy," she said with a nervous smile, "you look wonderful. Can we talk?" "Outside," I said. She hesitated but followed me to the courtyard. The autumn air was crisp, sunlight filtering through the maple trees. For a while, neither of us spoke. Then she sighed. "I didn't come to argue. I came to make peace." "Peace?" I repeated. "You mean closure on your terms." She blinked, but I didn't soften. "You knew what you were doing," I said. "You lied about Dad's land. You used guilt to keep us dependent. You watched me pay for things you could have handled yourself." "I never meant for it to go that far," she murmured. "I just didn't want to lose control of my family." "You did," I said, "because control isn't love, and what you called family wasn't a bond, it was a leash." Her eyes filled, but I didn't let her tears change the truth. "It wasn't about the money, Mom," I said quietly. "It was about respect. And you spent years teaching us that respect was optional." She looked down, her voice trembling. "I don't expect forgiveness." "Good," I said, "because forgiveness isn't a gift. It's something earned, and I'm not there yet." She nodded once, almost relieved that the performance was over. Then she turned and walked toward her car. As she drove away, I felt nothing. No anger, no satisfaction, just clarity. 2 weeks later, Emily sent me a photo. She and her kids were smiling in front of a small rental house. It wasn't fancy, but it was theirs. The caption read, "We did it on our own." And just below it, she wrote, "Thank you, Nancy, for stopping." A few days after that, a letter arrived in the mail, handwritten. The return address was Emily's. Inside was a single card. On the front, a picture of a sunrise. Inside, her handwriting was small but steady. "You were never cruel. You were the only one being honest. I wouldn't have made it through this year without you. Not because you saved me, but because you finally stopped." I kept that card. It sits in my desk drawer beside a sealed envelope, the one from the Nevada law firm. I never threw it away. It's a reminder. A reminder that sometimes love isn't about holding on. It's about stepping back, letting everything collapse, and trusting that what's meant to stand will rebuild itself. As for Mom, I haven't heard from her since that day in the courtyard. No birthday calls, no guilt messages, no sudden visits. And I haven't missed them. For the first time in my life, the silence doesn't feel like punishment. It feels like peace,